If you close your eyes and listen to the rhythm of Camp Nou, the slow, ceremonial hum of a stadium that has seen triumph and reinvention 100 times over, you'll hear FC Barcelona today as a team at once confident and still in the process of becoming. Not the flawless perfectionists of a decade ago, nor the patchwork side of a troubled season, but a club that has stitched together a clear identity. Youth and daring wrapped around a backbone of experienced leadership, an attacking temperament that favors movement and wide creativity, and a pragmatic tactical core that refuses to be decorative when the game demands steel. At the heart of this Barcelona sits a familiar constellation of names and new faces, whose roles intertwine like characters in a long, evolving novel. Marc-Andre ter Stegen, when available, remains an experienced last line, his calm presence and sweeping distribution still crucial in building from the back. Ronald Araújo offers the physical assurance and aerial dominance that anchor a backline increasingly entrusted to youthful ball players like Pau Cubarsí, whose composure and reading of the game have accelerated him from La Masia promise to first-team pillar. And Jules Koundé brings the modern center back's versatility, able to step into midfield or cover wide spaces when flickers of transition threaten to unbalance the team. In the fullback lanes, Alejandro Balde and the academy backups who have been blooded supply the width and vertical thrust that Barcelona demands, providing the overloads that create space for the creators inside. The midfield axis is a living tableau of Barcelona's present dilemma and its hope. Frenkie de Jong, whose renewal this season was a stabilizing, almost symbolic act, is the metronome. His ability to glide into space, turn opposition pressure into forward tempo, and link the defensive line with the attack is the technical glue that makes Barcelona's possession mean something. Alongside him, the young dynamism of Pedri and Gavi, when fit, gives Barcelona a blend of vision and frantic energy. Pedri's rhythm and incisive passing, Gavi's tenacity and pressing, together outline a midfield identity that values ball circulation, but also quick verticality when the moment offers a chance to pierce deep blocks. Up front, the forwards mix old-school ruthlessness with teenage audacity. Robert Lewandowski, still the striker to whom chances are fed and responsibility pinned, provides a clinical finish and positional intelligence that younger forwards can learn from, while the explosive mercurial talent of Lamine Yamal on the flanks has become a cultural phenomenon, a teenager who plays like a veteran free of fear, able to unsettle defenses with direct dribbles, angled runs, and an eye for the decisive pass. Rafinha's return to form in recent weeks has given the side another creative outlet and goal threat out wide, and the presence of Ferran Torres and academy graduates who alternate between cameo and starting minutes demonstrates Barcelona's deliberate balancing act, veteran brains and youthful legs sharing minutes, mentoring and being mentored in the same match-day dressing room. The club's transfer and shirt number announcements this season, and the way the coaching staff have used squad rotation, signal a clear intent to trust younger players while keeping enough seasoned heads to steer tight matches. The official squad list and shirt number confirmations published by the club show both the faith in La Masia products like Cubarsí and Lamine and the retention of experienced figures to stabilize a long campaign. Tactically, under the current leadership, there is a duality. Barcelona still prizes possession, short, intelligent passing, and positional rotations that open channels. But there is also an increasingly visible plan for transitions, a willingness to defend compactly, press in waves, and then spring quick vertical attacks through the half spaces where Pedri, de Jong, and the young wingers can operate. This hybrid approach, tradition married to modern pragmatism, is partly a response to the physical demands of La Liga and the Champions League, and partly born out of pragmatic honesty about the squad's composition. You need bodies that can press and recover, and you need game planners who can teach the young players when to hold the tempo and when to break the opposite team's rhythm. In the first months of the season, Barcelona have shown both swagger and vulnerability. Their Champions League nights have produced moments of high exhilaration, a memorable away win in an early fixture that reminded Europe of the club's offensive punch, but also the occasional defensive lapse in continental fixtures, where the margins are thinner and opposition counters ruthlessly punished. Domestically, the team's results have been a roller coaster of convincing wins, hard-fought draws, and a few stinging losses, with a recent run of come-from-behind resilience that has quietly underlined a squad mentality shift. The official results pages chronicle emphatic victories away and tight defeats at rival grounds, and the mix of performances suggests a side still tempering its youthful exuberance with the tried lessons of experience. Injury management and squad depth remain the most persistent challenges in Barcelona's story this year. Key creative figures have missed games through knocks and muscular issues, and the club, at times, has felt the strain when rotations collide with congested fixtures. News reports and club disclosures in the last week highlighted specific concerns: a shoulder problem for a midfielder, and a lone prospect suffering a hamstring issue at his temporary club. Reminders that the football calendar spares no one, and that even well-stocked squads can be destabilized by ill-timed absences. Those injuries compound the perennial conversation about depth. Can Barcelona, with its mix of prodigies and senior stars, rotate sufficiently without losing identity? The answer so far has been mixed but instructive. Youngsters have stepped up when called upon, offering flashes of brilliance that promise longevity, yet the team's consistency sometimes dips when the older, steadier performers are absent. This tension is not merely a medical or numerical problem. It speaks to the larger cultural identity of the club, a desire to be both a proving ground for the next generation and a competitor that must win now. Watching the interplay between the academy graduates and the established internationals tells you everything about Barcelona's current philosophy. The children of La Masia are granted creative license, but are also held to professional standards by elders who still expect precision. Lamine's ease on the ball and appetite for risk are tempered by Lewandowski's positional discipline. Pedri's probing through balls are judged against de Jong's control of tempo, and defensive education is accelerated by Araujo's uncompromising presence. This is a learning ecosystem where the identity of how Barca plays is being rewritten in small practical strokes. On the European front, Barcelona's group stage narrative has been one of adaptation. Commanding wins against mid-tier continental opponents have been balanced by narrow defeats to clubs with organized counterattacking plans. In La Liga, the title race has verged on the theatrical, a neck-and-neck battle where matches against traditional rivals and emerging challengers carry outsized weight, and where each loss can be magnified into a crisis narrative in the press. The fixture list in the coming weeks sharpens the story. A domestic trip to Real Betis and a vital Champions League match back at the Camp Nou against a tough Eintracht Frankfurt side crystallize both the domestic and continental stakes the club faces. And these games will offer a litmus test for Barcelona's tactical elasticity and bench resources. Those specific upcoming dates and fixtures are published by the club's official schedule and underline how swift momentum can shift in either direction depending on players' availability and the manager's selection choices. Off the pitch, the club's sporting directors have publicly signaled confidence in the current roster and an intent to make no rash changes in the mid-season window, a stance that speaks to an organizational belief that the current crop, if managed correctly, can balance short-term objectives with long-term growth. This board-level prudence both reassures and raises the stakes for internal solutions like player recuperation and youth integration. The psychological profile of the side, resilient, occasionally impulsive, willing to trade the sterile for the spectacular, is evident in how they respond to setbacks. Late comebacks are no longer anomalies, but proof that the coaching staff has instilled a competitive ferocity that can salvage matches and keep them in the title conversation. Still, the vulnerabilities remain. Set-piece defending, moments of transitional disorganization, and the physical toll on creative midfielders who accumulate minutes at a prodigious rate. Individual contributions deserve a closer human look. De Jong's incremental mastery of Barcelona's paradox, to be both conveyor belt and conductor, has altered how the team moves as a whole. Pedri's probing through balls shift games. Gavi's courage and agonizing disciplinary edges require a careful hand to channel for the team's benefit. Lamine embodies the new borderless Barcelona, comfortable with risk, media pressure, and expectation, yet still learning how to temper his exuberance for consistency. And Lewandowski, in a role that asks him to both finish and teach, functions as a bridge across generations. The young defenders, Cubarsí foremost among them, play with composure beyond their years, suggesting that Barca's defense is building for seasons, not just matches. If anything, Barcelona's progression this season is not a linear ascent, but a layered metamorphosis. The team is increasingly coherent in style, more willing to take field-level gambles, and more deliberate in using youth not as a marketing tagline, but as the tactical lifeblood of the side. That said, the identity is still being contested in every game. Is Barca primarily a possession church, a pressing state, or a transitional highway? The answer is all three, depending on the opponent and the context, and that versatility is precisely what modern elite squads require. Looking ahead to the calendar's marquee events, the clashes with Real Madrid, the derbies that always smell of history, and the pivotal Champions League fixtures, Barcelona's path will be defined by how well they can maintain equilibrium, protect their creative fulcrums from fatigue, rotate without flattening their attacking instincts, and integrate injury-recovered players seamlessly into the system. The next big fixtures are not just matches on a schedule. They are narrative checkpoints where the season's storyline can veer toward triumph or be forced into reinvention. Importantly, the club's approach to squad management, leaning on academy graduates, trusting an experienced core, and choosing measured activity in the transfer windows, suggests a long-term faith in continuity over upheaval. That faith will be tested in the cold arithmetic of results, but it is exactly the kind of institutional patience that can convert potential into legacy,